Everyone, Trustee Watson, we are ready to go with the audit committee.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 239th meeting of the Audit Committee, Tuesday, March 31st, 2026. Can I get a roll call by the chair, please?
The record will reflect that Trustee Watson is online and Trustees Wabi and Evans are in the room.
Can I get approval of committee meeting minutes, March the 3rd, 2026?
So moved.
There are no comments by the chair. The Internal Audit Committee presentation by Ty. Good morning, Ty.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Trustee Watson. So good morning. We do have two presentations, pretty quick ones, but neither one is based on an actual report. But both presentations, I think, provide information about work that we are performing in particular areas that I think you should know about. The first one is information about the ongoing review of the solids management upgrade or the incinerator projects at Bissell and Lima. I do have Steve Stroman here with me. He works on the construction audit team. He's going to help answer any questions you have. And then I'm going to add some additional information about a couple of things. So you go to slide 2. So I am going to give you a little background about this project and a little overview and give you some context just to help you better understand our procedures. But we are here. We're not here to explain the details of this project. I'll leave that to engineering. They know more about it than we do. So, but we want to talk about the work we've been doing. So the overall project is to replace existing 1960s era incinerators with more advanced technology. Remember, they're doing this at Bissell and Lima. The planned appropriation is approximately $900 million for the construction project. The project is being funded through 2 different state revolving fund loans. There are 2 main contractors involved with this. There's the design builder team, which is they're the ones designing and constructing the project. Then there's also Black & Veatch, who's our owner rep, and they're also very important to this. They help us administer and monitor the project. Now they're not part of the $900 million. They have a separate appropriation or funding bucket. Their current contract is not to exceed of $30.5 million. Now there are several subcontractors under each one of those contracts, just so you know. If you go to slide 3. You can see the renderings of the completed project. This is where we're going to end up in a few years. Now, by installing this new technology, they're going to reduce emissions by 70%, and they're projected to save about $2 million in operating costs when they put this in motion. So I think it's basically a win-win here for this. If you go to slide 4. You'll see that projected timeline. Now, I completely stole this from Alan's presentation from January, so I guess I owe him some licensing fee for that, but this is still the timeline. I wanted to just remind you of it. In the middle there, you can see right now they're in construction phase, in the green in the middle there. Now, when we get to 2027, they'll start testing the machinery and trying to get those online in 27. That's the idea. So if we move on to slide 5, I want to talk about our review procedures, and that's where the main purpose of this presentation is. So we want to gain an overall understanding of the processes the district is using for this very, very large project. It's probably the largest project since I've been here. So as the project is being performed, we want to assure those processes and controls to administer the program project or design and perform effectively. So we want to identify any issues or make any corrections while the project is going on is the idea. So if we see something, we can get it implemented as it's occurring. So specific objectives included RFP process. We want to make sure that was done properly, contractor design and executed properly. The big item is really making sure district funds are adequately safeguarded and protected. District is not overcharged. Credits due to district are properly received. There's proper reviews, improvements, separation duties are in place for the transactions around pay applications, invoice payments, change orders. Want to make sure the project are properly monitored. We have enough inspectors out there monitoring their work. That affects the quality of their work and also affects how we get billed. In a sense, we are billing ourselves in that the district and its OR play a real large role in determining the percentage of completion when we're doing the pay apps. And we also develop the pricing for change orders. The OR we develop our own pricing. Compare that to what the contract comes up with. Generally, we go with our pricing. There's some push back and forth, obviously, but we have a lot of control over the change order pricing. Any questions? Slide 6. So as far as procedures that we performed so far, we met with the district team and Black & Veatch several times. We did some site visits. We obtained access to the storage application project site. That's where all the project documentation is maintained and contained. There's a lot of documentation there. We did review and test contract documentation, the RP documentation. Now for Black & Veatch, who was the owner rep or CM, we have looked at 63 invoices for a total of $22.3 million. Now for Kokos and Plotcher, the design builder, we looked at 30 pay applications for a total of $351 million. And change orders, there have been 15 change orders to this point through December 31st. Actually, to this point, we have had no more. For a net total of a negative $13 million, so actually costs were reduced. And I'll explain a little bit about that here in a second. So it does include 33 work change directives. The work change directives are almost like individual change orders. What they do is they combine ones that kind of go together and they make an overall change order. So instead of having 33 change orders, you got 15 with 33 WCDs. Now, that $13 million reduction is a result of change order number 6, which was a reduction of $20.6 million. And it consisted of 6 WCDs. It was decided that some alternative technical concepts were better and more efficient solutions for this project, and that's what caused the reduction in the cost. Steve's going to add a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think the main reduction in cost came from reducing the planned 4 incinerator unit system at Bissell to a 3 unit, similar to that used at Lemay. And there were also some modifications of personnel spaces.
Any
So
questions?
does that give us the capacity to burn what we need?
It does. It gives us the
sorry.
capacity, plus
Gotcha.
also what it does is that creates redundancy. So basically, we're operating the same set of incinerators at both plants, which from an operations standpoint is very advantageous. Because if we're working on one, again, the 3 unit concept allows for 1 to be down, 2 operating at all times. Plus, then we'd have the opportunity, if we're having problems at one, to truck to the other. So that was something we made based on the early. And again, that's the advantages of a design build.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rich. And so we'll move on to slide 7. Slide 7 is just some pictures from our site visits in October. You can see the wind box out of Bissell. Those are 2 pictures on the left-hand side, and then the right-hand side, you see the solids treatment facility building. If you go on the next page, Lemay. The Lemay was scheduled a little behind Bissell, so they weren't as far as along at that point. This is in October when we went out there. Slide 9. So at this point, we have no recommendations to make at this point. Everything looks really good at this point. We're going to continue to do this. We'll come back later in the year, probably 6 months from now or so, and give you another update, let you know what's going on, what we're testing, and so forth. Are there any questions on this one?
Do you guys spot test, like randomly take an invoice and tear it apart?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes, the pay applications, we tore apart a few of them, and the invoices. Pay applications are real thick, and so are the invoices.
Right.
Yeah,
Good. Thank you.
sure. Right, so now we're switching gears. Put your sock hat on and take your construction hat off. So our next presentation is about our ongoing review of SOC reports. This is something that's been included in the audit plan the past 2 years and will be in 26. I haven't really brought it up to you guys, but I thought it was time to do it. So I think go to slide 2. So the first question is, what is a SOC report? It presently stands for System and Organization Controls Report. That's a new name the last few years. It was rebranded from Service Organization Controls Report to System and Organization Controls Report. So the reason they did that was to address the expanding focus on IT controls. That's the reason for the rebranding. So a SOC report is an independent examination, evaluation with third-party service providers, controllers. It really does provide valuable information about the infrastructure and control of risk and effectiveness of the controls at the TPSP. It's valuable to us as a customer to know this. Must be performed by a CPA, must be independent. Best practice is to perform annually. Usually the period ends on these are different than the fiscal years. They want to get away from having the audits going at the same time. So there's usually some weird, like August or September, October period end. So go to slide 3. So this has evolved over the years. There's been some version of this type of report that has existed since the 70s. When I first started in 93 or 94, when I had no gray hair and no wrinkles, it's called a SAS 70 report. Everybody called it a SAS 70 back then. But now it has evolved to the point, now it's under SSAE 18, which stands for Statements or Standards for Attestation Engagements. The difference between SSE and SAS is really that SSE, the subject matter, is something other than historical financial statements. The SASs focus on historical financial statements, like our financial audit. I don't want to get too deep in it. I just want to explain a little bit about that. So if we go on to slide 4, why are these SOC reports important? So in most cases, the service provider is either storing and processing our information or data. And some of that data is obviously sensitive. So it's really important that we know the service provider has adequate controls, procedures in place to properly check the information and the data of the district. As I mentioned, some of that's protected data and properly and accurately process that data as well. Some good examples are our payroll processor. They provide our payroll system and our HR system. They also process our payroll, so they have a lot of our information on their computers. Banking services, retirement plans, which involves trusts and processing record keeping services. We have our healthcare plan administrator, our claims processor, our billing system provider, which includes several payment service providers that are involved in the process. And then IT has numerous outsourced contracts. They got cloud storage, they got cloud computing, data center. There's numerous contracts. So it's just important for us to know what's going on there. So you go to slide 5. What are the classifications of SOC reports? There are basically 3 classifications. The third one, the SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 2, 3. SOC 3 is more of a marketing tool. Not even going to talk about it. SOC 1 focuses on the third-party service provider controls that are relevant to the user entity's internal control, which is us. And then SOC 2 focuses more on the systems. It's system secure, availability, integrity, privacy. It's based on trust services criteria. Now, there's IT testing in the first one, but the second one is more focused on IT. So that's more of a systems report. Now, within those classifications, there are 2 types, type 1, type 2. Type 1 is not particularly helpful. It does not include an opinion on operating effectiveness. There's no actual control testing. It does include an opinion on controls, design, suitability, but the opinion does not cover a period of time. It's just as of a date. So we want type 2. It includes an opinion on operating effectiveness, tests the operation of the controls, and provides really detailed results in the report. Also includes an opinion on controls design suitability. The opinion covers a specified period, so it's usually a 12-month period. It's not as one day, it's throughout a period. So the past, if you want to slide 6, past 2 years, we have reviewed 55 reports. We're still building this program out in that we're still identifying service providers that we need to request a SOC report from. And then contracts get added. Recently, IT started making a requirement for new contracts. They must have a SOC too. That's going to be great help and really good for the district. So when we look at these, there are 3 main areas that we'll look at. We look at the overall opinion. Obviously, we want a clean opinion. That's ideal. Now, if it's not clean, what was the issue? We determined the effect on the district. How did it affect us, or did it affect us? What was done by the service provider to address it? Did they button it down? Did they take care of it? Look at the detailed testing results. Review any exceptions identified. Again, determine the effect on the district, if any. And then again, what did they do to address the issue? Did they take care of it? Did they just kind of ignore it? What did they do? And then the third one is complementing user control, entity controls. That is only applicable to the SOC 1 reports. Actually, complementing user entity controls, and say very well. So basically what that is, what complementary controls are expected to place. So what controls are we expected to have on our side to make the whole process work properly? We will make sure our ducks in a row as far as the process goes as well. Slide 7, just an example of one of the detailed testing matrix looks like. Now, if there were some deviations or exceptions, you would see them in that right-hand column. They would be very detailed. They would say what they did, what they found, how many of them, and what was done to take care of it. So it's very helpful. These reports are very, very helpful. Last page, slide 8. We have no recommendations or anything that requires your attention at this point. So we're going to continue to do this, and we'll do this update every year and let you know. If something pops up, we'll certainly let you know. So any questions? That's all I have. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Next meeting tentative date is May the 5th, 2026. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
So move.
Second?
We'll get set up for program management and get that ready. Trustee Nick Zissin, we are ready for the program management meeting.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 276th meeting of the Program Management Committee. Can I get a roll call?
The record will reflect trustees Watson and Nikozistin are online, and trustees Wabi and Evans are in the room.
Thank you. Approval of committee meeting, approval of committee minutes, March 3rd, 2025.
So move.
Second?
There are no comments by the chair. And next on the agenda is engineering department items. Mr. Umberford?
Good morning, trustees. Just a few items this morning. First item is the Merrimack Bottoms Pump Station Interceptor Sewer. This action will appropriate additional funds and authorize staff to amend a design contract. The ordinance will authorize to amend a design contract with HDR Engineering for the design of the Merrimack Bottoms Pump Station Interceptor Sewer. This project is a lump sum cost project for the design of approximately 3,000 feet of 8-inch to 30-inch diameter sanitary sewers and appurtenances. The purpose of this project is to eliminate the Merrimack Bottoms pumping station. The construction cost for this project is approximately $2.4 million. This appropriation is for $80,000 and it's equal to what was in the budget. This project amendment is for post-design services, so that project's getting ready to bid. So this will allow for the support of HDR during the construction. The MWB participation originally anticipated for a firm Lion CSG was 3.46%. They're actually going to be performing closer to 67%, which will bring our overall for the project to around 44% MWB participation. All right, our next four items were projects bid over the past month. First item is the Infrastructure Repair Rehabilitation Contract B. This action appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter a construction contract. The work consists of rehabilitation of approximately 40,000 lineal feet of sanitary sewers, 6 to 63-inch in diameter, utilizing cured-in-place pipe method. Purpose of the project is reduce infiltration and to rehabilitate older, damaged, and deteriorated sanitary sewers throughout the district. Sewers are identified for rehabilitation through our annual CMOM inspection program required by the consent decree. District received 2 bids on this project. The low bid was from SAK Construction. The bid is slightly above the design estimate, and our appropriation of $5,050,000 is just slightly above the $5 million budget. SAK is committed to 22.58% minority and women participation, which meets our 10% minority and 10% women goal for the project. Next item is Missouri River engine generator replacement and digester system improvements. This action appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter a construction contract. The work consists of the removal and replacement of the membrane covers on digesters number 3 and 4, and the construction of 2 waste gas burners and other miscellaneous improvements to the digester gas system. The purpose of this project is to renew our aging infrastructure associated with our digester gas system. The district only received 1 bid on this project. It was from KCI Construction Company. The bid was below our design estimate, and our appropriation of $6.5 million is just slightly below the planned budget of $6.571 million for the project. This was a specialty project. In other words, most of our contractors, they would basically be doing general contracting work, and when we polled the other plan holders, that was kind of it. They were looking for more self-perform work, but we did get 1 bid. It was within our estimate and within our budget, so we're recommending proceeding with the job. We did have a diversity waiver granted for this project because the bulk of the cost is actually the material membrane that's being put on the incinerators to capture the gas.
So you said that there was a number, are these guys self-performing? Is that the?
A lot of it's in other words, it's mostly subcontracted for that specialty putting the membrane on.
Oh, okay.
And the material costs. So in other words, our contractors are in the business to be doing work, so.
Right, not
So there
managing.
was less of them interested. In other words, you basically, we're hiring a general contractor to administer this work.
Gotcha. Do we have like a CM though?
We do. Our inspector, we'll have inspectors, it's, KAI is our inspectors on plant work. So we'll be overseeing the work at this, with that contract.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next project is the South Brentwood Boulevard Sanitary Relief. This action appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter a construction contract. The work to be done consists of construction of approximately 147 feet of 15-inch diameter sewer. The purpose of the project will eliminate one constructed sanitary sewer overflow. We received 3 bids on this project. The low bid was from Kelp Contracting. The bid was just above our design estimate, and our appropriation of $305,000 is well below the budget we had for the project. And what I would point out, our budget was $3,300,000. If you look at the exhibit that goes with the write-up, this was a 2-part project, one that was tunneling under the inner belt, and then a small section which we're performing now. There were some issues. The current sewer that runs under the inner belt is within a culvert. So there were some issues we had with design, but we were able to go and do the upper portion right now, which will allow us to eliminate the overflow. The secondary portion will have to be done at a later time, basically just due to overall capacity of that system. So that's why you see the big discrepancy in the budget amount. So there will be a phase 2 for the project. Kelp has committed to 20.08%, which meets our 10% minority and women goals. And then finally, the Hillsdale Drive Storm Sewer Project. This action appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter a construction contract. The work to be done consists of construction of approximately 400 feet of storm sewer, 15 to 30 inch in diameter. The purpose of this project is alleviate basement and yard flooding at 7501 Hillsdale and yard flooding at 7505 Hillsdale in the city of Rock Hill, I believe. So, I'm sorry, Glendale. The district only received 1 bid on this project. It was from Gershenson Construction. The bid was above our design estimate, and the appropriation of $325,000 is above our budget for the project. We polled the other plan holders. There were 5 other plan holders. With the smaller work, obviously this is only 400 feet of pipe. The contractors tend to use this work as filler work, and so they basically look at the time they have available to come and do that. So they just weren't available at this time. Another thing we've been noticing with the smaller projects, for the last 10 years, we've been bidding jobs that are, I call them the mile-long projects. What we're starting to see with the smaller project is we're not necessarily getting the economy of scale. So the districts, we're looking at our budget and our estimating tools to determine kind of reacting to, we're seeing a little bit higher bids on these smaller jobs because you have increased mobilization, you're not getting pipe discounts, things like that. So that's something we're looking at.
To make them bigger?
Well, a lot of the storm jobs that you're going to see are just neighborhood, smaller backyards. They're not, now we do have larger storm jobs when we do channel work, things like that. We're seeing bids stay pretty steady on that, at least what we're estimating. So, but at these very, very small jobs, one, I think there's 2 things at play. It's the contractors' availability, and 2, the economy of scale.
Doesn't our small contractor program, I mean, isn't this the kind of stuff?
It goes up to 50,000. Now, ideally, our goal is with the small contractor program is that those firms graduate and would do these. This would not be one of our large, what we call deep sewer contractors.
Right.
These would be those contractors that their bread and butter is this type of work. So we will see I think once we do more of these, which is going to
I mean,
happen in
with
the
the-
next
with the
fiscal
Prop
year.
S, we're gonna have
Yes.
a lot more of these.
We're going to have a lot more of those, what I call under $500,000 jobs. So hopefully we'll,
Do they have, that's a good name for them.
what's that?
That's a good name for them.
Yeah.
Keep them that way.
Yeah, I will. And Gersten has committed to the 20% minority and women participation goals in this project, which meets the goals. And then finally, we have a resolution which authorized staff to exercise option year 1 of a professional service agreement for general engineering support designed for a small operations project. In other words, this is a small engineering contract utilized by our operations group. It authorized the district to enter amendment 1 with professional services with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley for these general engineering services. Again, the purpose of the agreement is to have a consultant provide technical and engineering consultant support for our plants and our pumping stations. These are for small projects that they need technical assistance for writing specifications or researching piece of equipment, and then it would go to our purchasing division and be bid out. So that gives them support services on a quicker basis rather than coming to us on a major project. So this is a resolution. The funding for this comes right from the operating budget under their professional services, and it's typically about $100,000 a year. And that concludes my agenda.
All right, thank you, Rich. There's no other business. Next tentative meeting date is May 5th, 2026. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
All right, thank you, Trustee Nicholasison. Trustee Evans, we will get the Finance Committee set up here and get going. Trustee Evans, we are ready to go.
All right, we will call to order the 325th meeting of the Finance Committee. Can I get a roll call, please?
The record will reflect trustees Watson and Nicholasison are online, and trustees Wabi and Evans are in the room.
Get a motion to approve the minutes of the March 3rd meeting?
So move.
Second.
All right, fiscal year 27 budget presentation.
Good morning, trustees. We're here today to present the district's strategic business operating plan and the preliminary budget for fiscal year 2027. Next slide, please. So here's the agenda that we'll cover today. Brett is going to give the trustees an overview of the strategic business operating plan. I will then discuss the operating expenses and the revenues related to the FY27 budget. Rich will cover the capital budget, and then I'll come back and address next steps in the budgeting process and take any questions. Of course, if you have questions during the presentation, please feel free to ask. We'll turn it over to Brett to discuss the strategic business operating plan.
Okay, thank you, Marion. Good morning, everyone. Our strategic business and operating plan, we are required by our charter to have a plan that's a 5-year rolling plan that's updated every year. So that's written in our charter as stated on this slide. If you go to the next one. So we took a deep dive this year into our strategic business and operating plan. We spent a lot of time and effort reviewing what our strategic goals are, what our vision and mission should be, and there's some changes to it if you compare it to our current one. And when you look at our vision statement, it changed a lot. In the past, it was always quality service, always, and it's been that way for a long time. We felt we needed to update that and restate what our vision was. And so you see it there, to be a model public utility providing essential wastewater and stormwater services and helping to build a thriving St. Louis region. We felt our mission had grown a little bit. The mission statement is basically the same. And if you read in our charter, this is really what's written in the charter. We did change it a little bit because you will see here, resiliency and weathering these more frequent, intense storms is something that we need to be working on and in the future work to deal with. So we added the resilient wastewater statement in there. So very, very similar to what was there in the past, but just a little different. If you go to the next page, so we updated our values a little bit. Most of them are still the same, but you will see resiliency there. Integrity, teamwork, responsible innovation, resiliency, and customer focus. So those are what our values are going forward here. We'll continue to look at those and update them as needed. If you go to the next slide. So what are our key strategic priorities? Of course, on a day in and day out basis, meeting our regulatory requirements is what we're here for. We think we need to work on talent development and building a great organization. Our engagement and trust with stakeholders is something that we continue to build on. We take that very seriously, and we put a lot of effort into reaching out to all of our stakeholders and municipal stakeholders, just the whole wide range. It's something that we feel very strongly about. One of the things that you will see in the budget, we feel that our customer service and billing systems need to be upgraded. They're rather old. At times, we make it very difficult for our customers to actually pay their bill, and that's not the way things should be in the 21st century. So that's one of our key priorities going forward. Again, resiliency to address water backups, what our system does when we experience these large storms. And then really, we want to be innovative with our technology. We don't want to be bleeding edge or cutting edge, but we have to keep updating our systems to keep pace with what the world is doing. And if you go to the next one, next page, and these are just our pillars. Again, our regulatory fulfillment, let's develop our talent and or organization. Again, public stakeholder, make sure that we are financially accountable and do a good job of taking care of all the dollars entrusted to us. Again, system resiliency and technology innovation. So that's what you'll see in the strategic business and operating plan. If you go down and it's in the budget book, all the objectives and priorities and those types of things. But that just kind of gives you the high level of what our strategic business and operating plan covers. And with that, I will turn it back over to Marion.
Thank you, Brett. Next slide, please. So this slide here depicts that the district is proposing a balanced budget as required by our charter. As you can see, our revenues and expenses both equal $898 million. The components of each item will be discussed in greater detail as we go through the presentation today. Next slide. We're going to start with our some key points relating to the general fund budget. The general fund budget contains $1.7 million of incremental budget items that are tied directly to our strategic business plan. 3% or $4.8 million increase in personnel services are included in that budget, and those exclude the incremental budget items that I just mentioned. There's a 6% or $4.3 million increase in contractual services. Those primarily relate to professional services for IT work and for rate commission work. Again, I'll give you some details on that here momentarily.
Hey, Marion, is that the 3% increase in personnel, is that does that reflect a higher head count, or is that just increased salaries?
So there are some positions that were included in the incremental budget items. I think there are approximately 10 new positions that have been added to the budget. But they are primarily related to budget benefits in those in that particular line item. So it's both salaries and benefits, workers' comp, insurance, all of that.
Head count's up 10 positions?
Yes,
Okay.
if those incremental items are approved. Yes. There's a 6% or $16 million overall increase in the general fund operating budget if you include the incremental items from FY26. Also, the total capital budget is approximately $455 million. About $388 million of that relates to wastewater, and the remaining $42 million relates to stormwater projects. And as Brett mentioned a moment ago, there's a $25 million capital project for our new CIS system that we've budgeted for, which will be funded out of our general fund. The budget also assumes that we will issue additional bonds with the proceeds totaling approximately $168 million. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide depicts our FY27 preliminary budget revenue. As shown earlier, district revenues are projected to be $898 million. The largest portion of our revenues consist of wastewater user charges, which total about $592 million, or 66% of our revenue budget. The next largest portion consists of the revenue bonds that we will issue, which again are $168 million, or about 19% of our projected revenues. Then we have taxes that are approximately $63 million, or 6.8% of the budget. We have investment and other income that we're projecting at $15.7 million, which is about 1.7% of the budget. Our stormwater user charge, we will bill that for the full year in this fiscal year. We're estimating that we will receive about $14.9 million in stormwater user charges, which is again about 1.7% of the revenues. We have a decrease in fund balance, so we're going to use fund balance of about $44 million, or 4.9%. This fund balance consists of, it's basically primarily capital project expenditures. So when we issue bonds, and in particular SRF funds, we draw those down as needed. But once we execute that agreement, the entire amount goes into our fund balance. So we're simply just drawing down those funds to pay for those capital projects. So we'll
they're on our
use,
books as a liability?
yes.
Got it.
They're not on our books as a liability until we actually draw that money down.
Okay.
But when we have availability to those funds, it's booked as our fund balance because we do have
Got it.
those funds available.
Got it.
So we're just drawing those down. Next slide, please. So this particular slide depicts the impact of rates on a typical customer that uses 5 CCFs of water. In FY '26, current fiscal year, that customer is paying about $65.66. Our approved rate for FY '27 was a 7.5% increase, which would take that amount up to $70.60, or a $4.94 increase, $4.94 increase for a typical customer. Next slide, please. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about our budget expenses for FY '27. So again, the district expenses are projected to be $898 million, which matches our revenues. The largest portion of our expenses is our capital program, which is typically the case. The capital program is $455 million, or about 51% of the district's total budget. Just want to point out that 98% of our capital projects are consent decree related, or they're regulatorily required. So I know our engineering folks love to build stuff, but they're not doing it just because they want to. They're doing it because it's required. Our expected wastewater expenditures from the capital program is about $388 million. Stormwater expenses are about $42 million, and then we have $25 million that's funded from our general fund for our CIS project. The next largest portion of our operating budget is our operating budget, at $290 million roughly, which is 32% of the budget. And then finally, our debt service budget, our principal and interest payments on our bonds and other borrowings, is projected to be $153 million, or 17% of our preliminary FY '27 budget. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide gives you an overview of the general fund budget by department, and I will touch on a couple of the increases that you see in the slide. First of all, the total department budgets without the incremental items are projected to increase by $14.3 million from the FY '26 budget. That's about a 5.6% increase. If you include the incremental items, which total $1.7 million, that total increase then becomes about $16 million, or 6.3% above the FY '26 budget. So I'm going to touch on a couple of the departments here and talk to you a little bit about the increases that are contained in those. So I'll start with operations. So the operations budget is increased by $5.3 million, or 3.8%. That's primarily due to an increase of $2.4 million for personnel services, and those largely relate to salaries, FICA, group insurance, and our pension plans. There's also an increase of $2.1 million in supplies, with machinery and parts totaling $1.1 million, about a $428,000 increase in chemical supplies, and a $195,000 increase in construction and building supplies. There's also a $108,000 increase in electrical supplies. The operating division budget also includes an increase of $721,000 for contractual services. That includes $376,000 for ash hauling. We typically do ash hauling on an alternate year basis, meaning that one year we don't haul as much, the next year we ramp that up. This is a year that we're doing additional hauling. There's also an increase of $290,000 in ground services, $231,000 in safety services, but there's an offset to contractual services of $328,000 due to a decrease in electrical repair services. And then finally, the operating department budget includes an increase of $638,000 for utilities. That consists of an increase of $315,000 for natural gas usage, a $192,000 increase in water usage, and then a $131,000 increase in electrical usage. There's also an offset to the department budget of $677,000 due to less capital outlays that will occur during this fiscal year. We'll move on to the information technology budget. There's an overall increase in that budget of $5.2 million, or 17%. That's due primarily to increases in personnel services, largely which consist of about $588,000 in temporary help. Those are consultants that we utilize to assist with the various projects in IT. Also, a $231,000 increase in their regular salaries, $109,000 increase in overtime, and an increase in capital outlay of $2.3 million that relates to computer equipment.
Would you say, go back, do you say, what was the number on overtime?
Overtime is approximately $109,000.
An increase? Or
Yes, an increase of
What's
100.
what's the base? What was it last year?
I would have to I can get you that number. I have it with me, but give me a second and I'll look it up for you. Okay. The next budget is the finance budget. There's an increase in the finance budget of $1.8 million, or 6.5%. That increase is primarily due to increases in contractual services. About $900,000 of that relates to our billing system, our rate commission expenditures that we will incur this year as we start up the rate commission process. Also, an increase of $301,000 in collection services, $250,000 in postage, and $140,000 for bill payment services. And then finally, the last item that I'll highlight is human resources. There's an increase of $1.1 million, or 11.3% in total, and that's all due to us having to book a $1.2 million accrual, which relates to our floating holiday. We book all that in HR. It's then later, when it's used, it's charged to the cost centers of those departments that actually utilize it. So it's a little bit misleading. Without this item, the HR budget is actually decreased. Okay, next slide, please.
Do you want to note the decline in the Board of Trustees line item?
Yeah, we reduced that bonus that you guys received, so.
Reflects our value.
Yeah. So this particular slide gives you a comparison of the rate commission revenues and expenditures that were in our rate change proposal compared to our current projections. And our current projections consist of the actuals for FY27, our forecast for FY26, and then our budget projections for FY27 and 28. So I'm going to start with the line item there for wastewater service charges. As you can see, there's a difference of $90.8 million. So we are projecting at this time that our wastewater service charges will be $90.8 million more than what was in the rate change proposal. The residential revenue is anticipated to increase by about $13 million, and our commercial revenue is projected to increase by about $71.5 million. Most of that commercial revenue, or actually all of it, is due to usage. We're seeing usage from the commercial sector that's starting to rebound from the COVID timeframe, and it's gradually going back up to, we're at a point now where we are back at about pre-COVID levels. We did budget conservatively as part of the rate commission process. We actually were anticipating a small decline in projected volume usage, particularly on the residential side. So it's kind of good to see that. Hopefully that'll bear out over the next 2 fiscal years. Our taxes are projected to increase by about $13.9 million. That's primarily due to increases in assessed value. That other line item that's listed there in the revenue section, we're showing an increase of $71.6 million. Of that amount, $26 million of it relates to interest earnings. Also, we have about $6 million relating to reimbursement of district cost. We were able to get both some federal and state grants, which total about $40 million. And the remaining item is connection fees, which relates to that remaining difference. So I'll move down to the expense section. Overall, we are forecasting that our expenses will be about $91.9 million less than the rate commission numbers that we forecasted. Of that amount, our operating expenses and our routine capital, the personnel services for the district are projected to be about $10.5 million over what we budgeted in the rate model. Supplies are projected to be about $20 million or $21 million over the rate model levels. Our utilities are overall projected to be about $18 million less than the rate commission projections. Contractual services are projected to be about $31 million over the rate model projections. And then our capital outlay is projected to be about $14.3 million over the rate commission numbers there. So again, in total, our net income, revenues less the expenses, is projected to be about $269 million more than what we predicted in the rate commission documents. In terms of our bond proceeds, they're pretty much spot on. In the rate commission projections, they were about $68.1 million, and our rate model, our current projections are about $658 million. The rate model itself was $662 million. So we're projecting about a $3.5 million increase there. Our change in fund balance is an increase overall of about $272 million.
When you look at this over, this period of time and compare it to historic, do we generally maintain build a fund balance of this size?
Well, keep in mind that fund balance is tied to the size of our capital projects.
Yeah, but we've also seen revenues outpace projection
We have, yeah, that definitely.
pretty substantially, I would think.
It is actually good to see those wastewater revenues a little bit more than what we projected. I think what really has kind of helped us too is on the debt service side. When we prepared the rate commission report, we were anticipating having to borrow a significant amount to fund from revenue bonds to fund that FBI project. Tim was able to work with the state,
Right.
and we were able to get that as SRF money.
Right, we had to maintain a substantially higher, as we projected, a higher debt service coverage ratio, which I think is what really drove, one of the factors that drove the rates. Clearly, we don't have to do that now, and I'm assuming going forward, who knows what the interest rate environment, what instruments we'll have available to us. But I would just sort of go on record. I think it's time to keep an eye on these rates. These things, I think I mentioned this last month or the month before, to the extent that we can hold the line on rates going forward to our consumers, and I'm not talking about the business ones, I'm talking about the residents. I think it's going to be, I think it'll be benefit. I think it's our job.
Oh, I totally agree. Where this would benefit us, as you'll know, when we prepare our next rate commission proposal, any savings that we generate during this period goes towards reducing that projected rate increase for the next 4-year cycle. So definitely you should see, our customers should see a benefit from the savings that.
But I think
we have now.
long-term, it's beneficial for us, our relationship with our customers to, if we've overprojected or we've saved money, there's a way for us to pass it on or pass it
Yes,
back.
absolutely.
It'll help us, I think, long-term.
Next slide, please. Okay, so that includes my review of the revenues and expenses, and I'm going to turn it over to Rich, who will cover the capital program budget.
Good morning, trustees again. Today, I'll be providing a summary of the district's proposed fiscal year 2027 capital improvement and replacement program, or what we refer to as the CIRP. You've received a copy of the CIRP budget supplement. So in other words, you got 2 documents in March. The budget supplement is what I'll be talking about today, which is generally our capital improvement program. So I'm going to provide, in that document is specific details about each individual project. There's a map where that project is, what our budget amount, where that funding comes from, and then a mild description of the work and are provided in that document. Today's presentation, I'm going to provide basically an overview and a breakdown of the program, and I'll summarize the different aspects, so I'll slice and dice it, give you different categories of the projects and the expected results from the proposed projects. Again, what I'm summarizing today, I bring to you on a monthly basis at our board program management meeting. As we bid projects, as we procure contracts, I bring those for individual appropriations. So this is the guidebook that we use and what I will discuss when I bring those to you. Next slide. Overall, there are a total of 132 projects in the capital improvement program for fiscal year 27 for a total amount of about $430 million. If you look at the chart there, 125 of those are new projects, both wastewater and stormwater, and there are 7 what we call continued projects. So those are projects that we had funded in fiscal year 26 for various reasons, and I'll explain in more detail later. They're being shifted to the future fiscal year, basically delayed for certain reasons, again, to make up the 132 million. The bulk of those being on the wastewater side for engineering and construction services. We are starting to see an uptick in the stormwater construction, obviously due to the new stormwater rate that was passed in 2024. So that I'll be covering those. So next slide, please. Just kind of a breakdown of those new appropriations and for the type of projects that we're doing. As you can see, 68% of that budget, or $280 million, are for wastewater projects. Those will be sanitary sewer overflows, treatment plant projects, pump station projects, small combined sewer projects, and a lot of repair projects as well. Big portion still, we've got one more large appropriation for the fluidized bed incinerator projects going real well. That's an appropriation of $92 million. And then 10% of the overall program, or $42 million, is going to be the stormwater. That's both design and construction. To kind of give you some kind of perspective of that is, if you go back just 5 or 6 years, that $42 million to be about $5 or $6 million. So obviously up in our game for stormwater improvements. Next slide, please. This just breaks down the wastewater program, kind of tells you where the total $372 million just for the wastewater program goes. And 60% of that $372 million is directly related to our consent decree work. And then the next big portion, $92 million, is for the fluidized bed incinerators. We have 12% of the work, or $46 million, that's going to take place at our treatment plants. Keep in mind we will have 6 large treatment plants. A lot of keeping those up and running. Most of them are over 50 or 60 years old. We've got 13% for district-wide appropriations. A lot of that's work related to contract repairs, CCTV work, things like that. 10% of the work is located in the city, directly addressed to, a lot of that's part of the green infrastructure program and repairs with the combined sewer system. And then 40% is located in the county. Those are the separate sewer area or separate sanitary overflow that we're still working to get rid of, that will have to be completed by 2033. So there's still a good deal of work that's going on in that area. One of the things you'll see in that 40% in the county for the sanitary sewer overflow, you'll see probably in 2028, 2029, 30, the next 4 or 5 years, that work in the city or part of the combined sewer overflow is where the next part of the program is going with our large CSO tunnels. So you'll see that shift over the next 4 or 5 years. Next slide, please. And where does our money come from? So we have multiple funding sources. Kind of as Marion discussed earlier, the bulk of our funding comes from our sanitary replacement rate. So that's where a bulk of our funding for the capital improvement, 84% of our total funding for the CRP comes from the sanitary replacement fund, which is primarily driven by our sanitary rates. 9% of the program is from stormwater funds, and that's 3 funds. The district has a district-wide stormwater fund, which is used for the operation and maintenance of the existing stormwater system out there. The bulk of that revenue is used for our operations costs, but we do use a portion of that for repairs, where we have stormwater repairs where we're trying to replace some of the old existing systems out there. We have a stormwater regulatory fund that is used for a small grant program in the county and other regulatory needs that we have to meet with regard to our stormwater permitting. And then finally, we have the new stormwater capital funds for the new projects, which is overall ends up being about $37 million for that stormwater work. Next slide, please. If you recall, the stormwater funding that existed prior to the stormwater rate were individual operation and maintenance construction funding districts that basically were aligned by watersheds. When we agreed to have the new rate for stormwater district-wide, there was a discussion and a decision at that point to leave 3 of these OMCIs on. The municipalities overwhelmingly, within these districts, overwhelmingly supported leaving these on to a partial funding rate. In other words, when they were originally funded, it was a larger rate. This is 25% of the original tax rate that we were collecting prior to the new stormwater rate. These dollars generated within the municipalities will go directly to a grant program for those municipalities. I bring those individual grant amounts to the board generally in December or January for individual appropriation. So there are 3 taxing districts still in existence: the Deer Creek, Sugar Creek, and University OMCIs that are still in existence.
Hey, Rich, what's the difference between why is there a difference between the revenues generated and what we give away, the $70,000 or whatever? Is that like a administrative fee or something?
I'm not sure on which numbers.
I mean, we're giving away $1.5 million, or we're generating $1.5 million and we're grant funding $1.43 million.
I would have to determine
Do
what
we keep
what
something
that
that
difference is.
administrative?
We do not. This is 100% goes out. So I'll have to find out what that difference is, why that's different. It could have been a projection. Again, we're projecting a revenue. I don't think we know exactly until later in the year. So it could be based on that. I'll find out why those difference. I didn't add the 3 up.
I just want to let you know I'm looking at this.
All right. Had your calculator out. All right, I appreciate that. No, I'll find out what that was. Didn't realize that there was a difference there. Thank you. All right, next slide, please. Overall, one of the things I do want to point out is obviously our CRP is based on contract services for engineering. That's construction management and design services, and then obviously contract or construction. So we always do a breakdown of what that amount is of the overall CRP. So 80% of our capital program is for construction work, 20% engineering. To kind of give you some perspective, when we started the consent decree back in 2013, we really kicked off a lot of the design work for a lot of sanitary sewer overflows. We were doing a lot of system investigation. Our engineering to construction ratio was 31% engineering to 69% construction. So as a lot of that work went on, we got into the early 2020s. That got as low as 13% for our engineering versus design. But what we're doing is we're seeing that creep back up, and that's primarily because we're, just like we started the wastewater program, kicking it off in 2013, we've got a big kickoff now for the stormwater program, so we're trying to get more things designed. So I'm bringing more design contracts to get the project going. And then that ratio will, again, start going back down. What we do see is a good portion of that engineering, that the $86 million. We do have 3 major construction management that provide our project oversight, like at the FBI incinerator project, at our large, and then we will require that on our tunnel projects as well, where we have a large contract to oversee that construction. You'll have a whole team of consultants to oversee that construction. And then earlier I talked about what we refer to as continued projects, or you could call them delayed projects. We have a number of these. Obviously, my goal in our department is to try to get all the projects that we have planned done over the fiscal year, but it doesn't always happen. So we have 7 projects this year. They're all wastewater projects that are carrying over into fiscal year 27. 5 of those are basically due to, we're still acquiring easements for them. And to give you some perspective of trying to get easements, 3 of those have to do with golf courses. So obviously there's a lot of discussion when you're working on a golf course of keeping the golf course open, who's going to do what restoration, those types of things. So those negotiations could take a little bit. And then also the timing. In other words, they're only going to allow us on there at a certain time of the year, so that could affect that project schedule. There was one project that is delayed, a portion I mentioned, we split it in half, so there's another phase of that next year. So there's 7 of those projects totaling $15 billion. 2 of those are expected to happen right away next fiscal year. So one of them is we're going to redo the parking lot out here, redo it, and we were hoping to do this fiscal year, but again, we had to acquire off-site parking for our employees while that work takes place. We've got that under control, so that's going to happen in the first quarter. So that's one of the projects. And then there are 2 that'll happen. So 4 of the 7 will be, you'll see pretty quickly early in the next fiscal year. And then finally, within the CRP, we do include what we call contingency projects. These are projects that we want to have a public hearing or make the board aware of that are planned in fiscal year 2028. That if we do have stuff slide, then like this year we had the carryover projects of what was the total amount of millions of dollars. That money's down available, that if I have a project ready to go, and the funding's available, I can move that up if it's ready to go. So that way it's not waiting around, just sitting on the shelf waiting for it. So we call those contingency. There's 146 million there. I will tell you this, typically on the wastewater, we're not bringing projects up because we're running pretty tight budget. Stormwater, I think I've already brought 3 projects that were on last year's contingency list up. Stormwater projects, you build in your schedule, easement acquisition, things like that. Sometimes they all sign real quick and the project's done and they're ready for you to start building, and we have that funding available, we'll move that up. So right now we have 28 projects identified. Like I said, last year we brought 3, so it doesn't work, but we want to have those available should it happen. So those are what you'll see in the CRP. And then finally, the last slide, just kind of a breakdown of the type of projects. I talked about where they're at, how they're funded, and this is kind of the types. 25 of the projects are what we call asset management renewal. Those are we do a lot of pump station repair, pump station replacement. We do a lot of piping repair, things like that, concrete repair. Those are projects, that's about 15% of the overall budget. The next biggest one is the SSO program. Again, these are removing our sanitary sewer overflows. We do have that number down to 16, so we still have to remove 16 before 2033, so we're still working, and again, and then the big number up there is 138. Again, 92 million of that is the last appropriation for the FBI incinerator, or the second to the last, but one of the larger ones. So those are again, the big portion of the breakdown. And as you can see on stormwater there, 42 million, again, if you looked at the past, that's an increase of our overall capital budget as we move forward, which is where we're headed. So right now, that concludes what I have to present. One of the things, obviously, take a look. If you want to review the CRP, have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Also in your packet, and Wendy's going to send it out via email. A few years ago, the board asked, when we had the incinerator project, obviously that was a $900 million project. The board said, hey, if we got something like that coming, we want to know about it. So what we did is we prepared a fact sheet for 3 major projects coming up in that type of dollar amount. The first one being the Lower Middle River to Pear Tunnel. That overall program, which is about a 10-year program, totals about $1.7 billion. The tunnel being the largest portion, right around $1 billion. Then there's a second CSO tunnel that'll start 5 years after that one. That one there, that total program is about almost $900 million. So we wanted to keep the board aware. The cut sheet kind of just shows you the location of the project, all the associated appropriations that'll come to you is on the back side. And they'll also tell you the public and communication that we're having regarding those projects. Because when you're doing those types of projects, we're out there and we're impacting the community. We're out there having discussions. So that gives that overview, and hopefully the board, it keeps everyone informed of those projects. I know these project sheets are also out on our website as well, but if you have questions on those, feel free to shoot those at me. But we wanted to make sure you have that along with the budget supplement. So if there's no questions, I'm going to turn it back over to Marion.
Thank you, Rich. Can you go next slide, please? So I'm just going to cover the next steps in the budgeting process. So we will have a public hearing at 6 o'clock the night of the May board meeting. We're required to publish a notification of that public hearing, which we will do, and it's scheduled to be done April the 16th. We will come back in April at the Finance Committee meeting. I will review any changes to the preliminary budget with you. There are some changes that will be made as we traditionally have done. So I'll give you the difference, which will consist of our final budget request. The budget is scheduled to be introduced during the May 14th Board of Trustees meeting. Again, we have that public hearing that'll start at 6 o'clock that evening. As we've done in the past and is required by charter, we have to form a finding of facts committee to consider the proposed taxes to be levied. So I will be reaching out to the trustees to ask for volunteers to serve on that committee. I think most of you have done that before. And then finally, the budget is scheduled to be adopted at the June trustee meeting on June the 11th. If there are any questions that I can address before the next scheduled meetings, please reach out to me. Other than that, that concludes the presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Good morning, trustees. I will be presenting the operating fund portfolio as of March 26, 2026. The total par for the district is $718.6 million. That's an increase of almost $20 million from prior month. Mostly is related to the stormwater capital payments coming in, and we're not spending a lot of money towards the projects yet. We're also preparing for the semi-annual debt service payments of over $60 million in May, as well as a pension payment in May about $5 million. And then in addition to all that, we are preparing for large capital spend coming this summer due to the fluidized bed incinerator project. The yield to maturity is 3.95%. That's a decrease of 3 basis points since last month. The benchmark jumped up 53 points, or 0.5%. That's mostly because beyond 1 year, we're seeing the increase in interest rates, and most of the district is staying short because of the upcoming needs we have. Weighted average maturity is relatively close to last month. We're approximately 8 months of maturity, while even though we do have investments that go out as far as 2.5 years, we are still around 8-month maturity. And as we get into those larger fluidized bed incinerator payments, we've been scheduling maturities to match that expected spend. The benchmark will always be close to about 2 years because it is a 1 to 3 year index portfolio. Top right section is a sector allocation. This section compares our portfolio to our investment policy limits. There's really no material changes from last month. We are 77.4% in the U.S. Treasury bonds, 1.4% in federal agency bonds, and commercial papers 21.2%. And then the weighted average maturity, we're relatively close to last month. Did I just say that one? Oh, I skipped that one, sorry. And then the sector allocation, we are in compliance with our investment policy. So the investment fund summary at the bottom left, this changed last month. We did get rid of the reserve summary because we no longer have that account. The overall increase of $20 million is mostly in the MSD operations fund. Within that fund, we break it down to 4 different funds. The general fund, permanent fund, and special revenue funds had no change from prior month. The general fund consists of mostly operating expenses. The permanent fund consists of insurance and water backup, and then the special revenue fund consists of stormwater expenses. The 2 funds that did have changes are the capital projects fund, wastewater, which is wastewater projects, that decreased by 2%, and the debt service increased by 2% due to the May payment that's coming closer to time. So we will see a decrease in that debt service percent of 12% after the May 1st payment goes out. And the last section, the bottom right, is the maturity distribution. This is just a graphical representation of our maturities. The maturity of our distribution is 1 to 2 years, mostly due to the debt service payments and the expected capital project spends. And then the benchmark is a 1 to 3 year, so we do expect to see the bulk of that activity in the 2 to 3 year mark. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next meeting is tentatively set for May 5th, 2026. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So move.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we'll get stakeholders set up and get ready for that. Stakeholder committee meeting.
Okay, we will call to order the meeting of the Stakeholder Relations Committee. Get a roll call, please.
The record will reflect trustee Watson is online and trustees Wabi and Evans are in the room.
Okay, I have no comments. I get a motion to approve the minutes of the March 3rd meeting.
So move.
Thank you. Next is a discussion regarding resolution for contract renewal for title quote application support.
Good morning, trustees. I'd like to present resolution number 4010 for the, to exercise the first of a two one-year option with Segment Technology, which supports our title quote application. That will help us to apply security and user experience to that application. The annual renewal is at $144,000. Any questions? Thank you.
Good morning, trustees. Going to go over the cybersecurity update. I'm going to handle the business IT side of it, and then I'm going to hand it over to Chris Wazrowski, who is our infrastructure architect for the operational technology side. So I want to give you a brief overview of the external threat environment current as of what we know within the last few weeks and months. Then again, go over our program maturity model and some of our initiatives. If you are not aware, we've recently been getting a lot of communications from the EPA, from CISA, and from DHS related to our current threat environment. Specifically from February 28th on, we've seen a significant increase in the amount of what we'll say qualified threat attempts against our systems. And that is, although we can't directly tie it to the events going on in the Middle East, it is too much of a coincidence that it's not, because that started on February 28th, and we did a 2-week period before and a 2-week period after, and there was a 100% increase in the number of threat attempts. So seems like it's very likely that that is a major factor in that. And what we are seeing is that the trending is more of an intentional attack versus a opportunistic. So before it used to be collateral, right? It was a nice to get at a utility. We weren't a primary focus of a lot of the threat actors. Now it seems like we're getting more and more of that. Specifically on the OT side, we're seeing upwards of 60% coming from nation state actors, which is a significant threat on our end. The other thing that we are seeing is sophistication is getting better, and a lot of that has to do with AI, right? So just as it is good for the good guys to use the AI systems and everything else, our bad actors are also starting to use that, and the sophistication of the phishing attempts, the malware and ransomware, the credit ID theft, that's all starting to escalate. So we have to continue to try and up our game to make sure that we're protecting our systems as well. And then, like I said, on the OT side of the house, they're looking for more what we call persistent access. They're wanting to get in, they're wanting to establish that control, and then just hang in there until such a time is decided that they want to try and do something. So that's what we're always trying to prevent, and really they're targeting our ICS, our industrial control systems, and our SCADA systems, which is our supervisory control and data access systems. So, and that's our DCS systems in the plants and SCADA throughout the pump stations and everything else. Next slide. So I kind of wanted to give you an overview of our program maturity and where we started in 25 and where we're at with 26 and moving forward into 27. Some of the things that I really wanted to highlight was, the additional support that we're giving to operational technology, and that's by way of leveraging a lot of our IT assets as far personnel as far as networking and server and cybersecurity to assist on the OT side to help protect those systems. Always looking at AI, trying to protect that and put guardrails upon that. We have implemented AI risk assessments so that we go out and before we try to bring in any kind of a technology, we actually try to find out what those systems can and cannot do, whether or not they're learning from our data, whether or not we're able to kind of put those guardrails and control what it can and cannot do. The other thing is enhanced cybersecurity controls on the internal traffic. We have pretty good controls from outside coming to in. What we're trying to enhance is the inside. So if you think of all of our different locations, we'll take our Bissell treatment plant, for example, having that protected visibility within that network as opposed to just coming into it. So that's what we call our east-west traffic. And we have to continue to bolster that because, as I stated earlier, they're looking for that persistent access. So we have to be able to try and identify when those things are changing. The other thing that I would really like to highlight is our extended retention time on our backups. We try to follow best practice on that and extend the amount of time that we can maintain our backups so that should a ransomware event happen, we can try to get ahead of it to where before it actually happened. And a lot of that is due to the amount of time that we can keep our backups. And then the final one that I want to highlight on that end is the geofencing. And what that is we really try to restrict where people can log into our systems or get into our systems to North America. That way, any outside actors coming from different countries can't, it'll immediately try to deny them. Now, the sophistication of the threat actors, they will see that and they'll try to get to something in the North America to try and attack us. And we do our best to protect that, but putting that in there is, we try to do a layered approach to where we want to make it more difficult so that they don't come after us, they go after someone else. So for 26, we've done a couple of things that are continuing to enhance our security program, and that is the number one thing that I wanted to highlight was last year, if you recall, we talked about the phishing program. And there was a directive from the board that we try to bring that phishing percentage down. And in a couple of more slides, I'll show you how we've done that. But that directive, we took to heart. The directors got together, Jenny and I got together, and we said, okay, how do we improve this? How do we improve our security awareness training for our end users? And we feel like we've made some great strides on that end. The next one is what we call our next-gen SIEM, which is Security Information and Event Monitoring. We are implementing a new system on there that will be fully online within the next couple of weeks here. And the biggest thing is that we've completed a physical inventory of all of our assets. If we don't know it's out there, we can't protect it. And what we found is there's a lot of things out there that we're not aware that we're sitting out there that were not necessarily connected to our network, but may have been sitting in drawers because it was an old piece of equipment and they didn't want to let it go. So we were able to reclaim a lot of that stuff. And then moving into 27, we're going to implement a IT asset management system, which is in direct relation to the physical asset inventory, so that we'll be able to continue to maintain that accurately, and then we'll just have to do spot checks. Randomized spot checks on the equipment to ensure that we're still accurate with everything that we have. We are going to implement a 24/7 managed detection response system. Right now, we have good coverage and we have protocols in place for after-hours support, but there's time delay to get to that. With this, there's going to be an immediate response and faster notification, which will reduce the amount of time that a threat actor might be able to stay within the system. And then the only other things I kind of want to highlight is the enhancement of our AI. That as AI continues to evolve, we have to continue to try and evolve our security and our protocols around AI and to put some guardrails in place of that. And we are putting a technology in place that should assist us in not allowing any data leakage should we find that there's a rogue AI system out there. Any questions on any of that? Okay, next slide. So this one I report every year. It's a good, I'll say, benchmark to see how well MSD is doing compared to the industry and compared to others within the industry. Again, BitSight is kind of look at it like a credit score, and then maybe on the right-hand side there, look at it maybe like a report card to see how we're doing with things. Ideally, you want all A's. So we always have room to improve, and we continue to do that. But it does look at our user behavior. It does look at the diligence and with which we maintain and patch our systems and close out the vulnerabilities that are identified, and as well as looking at any potentially compromised systems. Next slide. And as you can see, as of March 12, our security rating, which is 760, which I believe the top is 900. So we do, as we said, we have room to grow, but 760 is very, very good. And what that basically means is that our likelihood of risk to exposure is significantly lower than someone who might be in the intermediate or the basic category. Any questions on that? Okay, next slide. So this one I really wanted to kind of highlight because this was a directive from the board, and we wanted to kind of highlight what we've done and show what we've done. So we started tracking this in earnest in July of 25 after the board meetings from last year, and we were at about an 11% phishing rate. And that's when we started, we were asked on how we can, and given the directive of how do we reduce that. So we needed to find ways of improving that score because our industry average is 3.5% for the utility industry. So as I said, the directors got together to try and identify ways that we could enhance this program. And some of those enhancements were, we've made compliance and training now part of their performance reviews as part of the safety and risk category. We do in-person training for repeat offenders, and by offenders, I say those who failed at least 2 attempts within the last 6 months. And we have regular meetings with district personnel where the information security team will go out to different safety meetings and different engineering meetings and talk about some of the things that we're seeing, find out what some of the end users are experiencing, and try to help them out and help them to understand the importance of the phishing attempts and the phishing security and awareness training, primarily because roughly 80% of risk comes from credential theft. So, and phishing is a major part of that. So, and then finally, on a monthly basis, we report the findings to the directors, and we give them the list of their employees that have failed and the actions that we've taken. And as you can see, we're now sitting as of February 4.6%. So we see that trend going down very nicely compared to the 11% in July of 25, 8.9, 8, and it continued to go down. We don't have the results for March, since March is not over yet, but we continue to look forward to trying to push that down below the 3.5%. Are there any questions? Okay. I think the next one I will hand over to Chris.
Good morning, trustees. Oh, sorry. Good morning, trustees. At this point in time, I'd like to discuss where operational technology has been and where it's going. In FY24, which is a little bit in our past, that was 2 short years ago, we decided to make some foundational changes. And when we did that, we were able to align IT and OT business practices for the purpose of protecting our systems. We established a dedicated OT cybersecurity implementation in InfoSec, and we were able to improve our resource utilization in order to create a more symbiotic relationship and also mitigate some of the expenses of creating the same thing on both sides. The outcome was basically created a unified OT, IT operating model and reduced risk and improved our scalability. In FY25, we moved on to the next step in the path, and we are still either completed with this or near completion. And the biggest things that we found in FY25 was implemented our OT cybersecurity policies. That was pretty big. Developed an OT disaster recovery plan. That was another huge step. That way we're protecting ourselves for the future and possible things that could happen and trying to mitigate those as much as possible. We also addressed a lot of the key cybersecurity audit findings, which we've talked about in other meetings. Those findings are still ongoing and will continue to be ongoing because it's an ever-growing presence within our organization. The outcome for FY25 was we established a baseline of security controls and also improved our audit posture. Next slide, please. Moving on to FY26, which is where we are currently, we're looking at program maturation and operationalization. This is in progress, and these are things that are going to continue to be in progress because as the threat vectors grow and as our security and our oil spot tends to grow, we're going to have to continue to protect them. The biggest thing is expanding the OT governance and staffing within the IT structure. We've brought our team completely over into the IT world now, and we are leading both the OT and the IT from the same organizational silo. We are supporting critical infrastructure upgrades with the pump station SCADA technology upgrades and our private cellular network. That's going to give us the ability to bring in a lot more data about our sites and how they're functioning, utilize that data and perform test and analyzation on it, and create a better operational work environment for those particular implements that we've got as remote sites and plants. Implementing the OT monitoring and threat detection capabilities has been substantial in protecting ourselves from the outside world. We've got that under control, and we're currently working towards the east-west traffic, as Jason mentioned. That's going to give us the ability to continue to protect the house. Addressing physical and cyber convergent risks is our biggest goal for this particular FY and continuing also into 27. That is to mitigate the open nature and the ability to have access to our network implements. And what I mean by that is the plants are protected with fences, and we have to have badges scanned to get in, we have to be let in, we have to be accompanied at most times when we've got visitors. However, we could do a better job. And that's what one of the audit findings was, is securing our OT and IT cabinets and getting them into a position where they're better protected. That is a huge physical security push for this next upcoming year, and that's where a good portion of our upcoming budget is going to go. We have developed enterprise OT standards. We're developing a roadmap for that particular thing from the standpoint of we're making we're bringing our technology for the SCADA system up to current standards so it's easily or more easily protected. We're also modernizing some of the DCS systems and bringing it up to a standard platform so that we can better understand it, better protect it, and better utilize it and get more data out of it. The outcome for fiscal year 26 is transitioning from foundational control to sustained measurable resilience. FY27 looking forward is more strategic advancement than anything. We have several POCs going on right now in our cybersecurity world to make sure that the tools we're looking at and installing are going to do exactly what we need them to and fill the holes that we see from these audit findings. As we go about doing that, when we approve these technologies and we get them installed, it's going to give us our zero trust principles for OT remote access. It's going to expand our asset visibility and our lifecycle management, and that visibility is key so that we know what we need to protect. From that standpoint, we are going to be integrating our OT data into enterprise analytics strategies, potentially taking advantage of MQTT, AI, ML, and UNS, lending us to a future of predictive analytics. That predictive analytics is what's going to save us a lot of time and money from the standpoint we'll be able to recognize trends as they happen, and we'll be able to identify those and do something about it before it becomes catastrophic. So we won't have failures at the plants and in the treatment system. And that's really the biggest goal of all of this, is give us a better look and see at what we're doing every day. So the outcome of 27 that we're focused on is achieving proactive, intelligence-driven OT security and operational excellence. Is there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, excuse me, good morning, sinuses. The first item I have is a resolution for our Workforce Development Grant Program. So what you have before you is a resolution for option year 2 for the Workforce Development Grant Program in construction, which fulfills our community benefits agreement to provide assistance to low-income, unemployed, and underemployed individuals and obtain training and development for sewer construction-related occupations. Our current contract is with Missouri AFL-CIO, Missouri Works Initiative, and I'm requesting board approval to exercise option year 2 of the current contract. And as a reminder, the reports on the program are also included in Diversity's semi-annual and annual reports, and it will be included in today's semi-annual report that I give to the board. Any questions? If not, I'll move on to delivery of the semi-annual diversity report. So the agenda is for me to cover the capital program for both vendor and workforce utilization, for construction and design, the small contractor program, and updates for program initiatives that fall under our community benefits agreement that you see listed here. Next slide. And I'll start off with the Capital Improvement Replacement Program, CIRP. First is construction vendor utilization. There were 22 awards. 18 were non-building. We had 1 state-funded and 1 design bill, along with 2 waivers due to immediate needs that were issued during the reporting period. The total awards amount of $71,298,487 had 23.606% MWBE participation, with minority businesses receiving $8.497 million, or nearly 12%, and women-owned businesses receiving $7.943 million, or 11.14%. Payments to MWBEs were 39.8% of $101.6 million. MBEs were paid $13.7 million, or 13.5%, and WBEs were paid double that, with $26.299 million, or 25.88% on active projects. Next is our workforce program for construction. To the left, you'll see the goals that are applicable to the active projects that were being worked during the reporting period. So during the reporting period, we had total of 245 active projects, 185 were building and non-building sewer construction projects, plus 1 design build in that category. And then the state-funded projects, there were 60 with 1 design build project, which is the FBI project we hear about pretty regularly. The combined hours for construction represent 28.97% minority participation and 7.26% women, with minorities and women representing 50% of the total project training hours that took place during the active reporting period. And next, I'll move on to our design area, first covering design workforce. Next slide. Professional services workforce goals significantly increased in 2023, and you'll see here to the left that there's a significant shortfall of minorities in our local offices of primes that participate on our MSD contracts, with 12.62%. Overall, women in the workforce represent 34.10% of the local office workforce. So how we're actively addressing that is to build the capacity and increase the pipeline of availability for minorities and women in the industry through workforce development initiatives such as the survey and materials apprenticeship programs that we recently started through Construction Forum. And we also have incentive credits of up to 20% in our RFP and RFQ processes on the design side. So during this period, MSD awarded $10.2 million on 9 projects, with 31.78% going to minorities and women participation, 18% to minority businesses, and 13.74% to women-owned businesses. And 30% of the payments made on design professional services contracts represent $33.9 million that was paid to minority and women-owned businesses, with 21% to MBEs and 9% going to WBEs during the reporting period. The next part is our small contractor program report. The small contractor The small contractor program offers opportunities to small businesses to competitively compete with other contractors who are similar in size to participate in work being performed on MSD's capital program. In the reporting period, 33% of the $2.5 million program spend went to diverse minority and women-owned businesses. Sanitary projects had 46% and 26% on the storm side. The numbers are consistent with the number of projects that were awarded, with what you see here at 33%, both for spend and the number of projects awarded.
Excuse me.
Yes.
On the 50% or $50,000 bid threshold, when was the last time we adjusted that? Has that been?
The last time it was adjusted was when the state statutes changed.
Is it driven by statute?
Yes.
I mean, is that, because I mean, when was that statute adopted?
Is this prevailing wage? Is that what's governing a $50,000 threshold?
No, it's the, yeah. It's the bid.
Right, correct.
I mean, is that, the reason I'm asking is that in this environment of inflation, $50,000, you know, what does it buy today versus what did it buy when we?
So it's really not impacting us because the average size of the project that the small contractors do, I think, is right around $8,000 to $10,000 per. So where we can, we bundle them and we might give them 2 or 3 projects, but the $50,000 limit really hasn't impacted our ability to get the projects to these contractors.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next is our community benefits agreement information. As we continue to work with meeting the purpose of the community benefits agreement to address workforce, education, outreach, and providing opportunities for disadvantaged businesses to do business with MSD. With our established partners, with CBEs, with the signatories, we've continued to work to accomplish expanding opportunities within our communities and eliminating barriers that have been identified with our CBA signatories. And next is the report on the various programs. So with our scholarship program at SIUE for environmental resource training certifications for treatment plant operators, we awarded 2 full-ride scholarships at the beginning of this current school year, and the expectations is for the completion of the program to take place this summer after completion of their internships requirements, and then they'll take the certification examinations to get those certifications. And last summer, we also had 3 summer interns from the Boys and Girls Club of Missouri, along with the St. Louis Internship Program that served in our information governance, human resources, and information technology areas. Next is our workforce information for, first, the workforce construction. The first program you see listed to the left is the Skilled Trades Exploration Program, otherwise known as the STEP program. This is a pre-apprenticeship program for high school juniors and seniors. And cohort 2 was completed in conjunction with the Boys and Girls Club last summer of St. Louis and the St. Louis internship program. Cohort 3 was in the fall, started in the fall school year of this first semester, and the graduates they will graduate this spring. And then over half of the students indicate that they plan to pursue some type of technical school or enter a union apprenticeship program after graduation from those high school students. And then next is the report of the established BUD program, BUD STL with the Missouri AFL-CIO. It's the Apprenticeship Ready Construction Program, and there were 2 graduations with a total of 26 students and 16 job and union placements from July through December. And 18 of MSD's contractors also participated in the hiring events with each of those graduating classes. And then the next information is our workforce development initiatives for professional services. Our efforts in professional services workforce development began at the beginning of this fiscal year with cohort 1 that consisted of 5 apprentices that were hired into certified survey technician program. The construction forum's outreach efforts have included meeting with at least 42 firms and outreach recruitment sessions with their recruitment partners that resulted in 173 interested candidates that attended these outreach sessions. And the next scheduled cohort 2 is scheduled to start next month, this year in April 2026. So I'll have some good reports to report on that in my annual presentation. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Board.
I have one quick item to cover before we go into closed session. As you're aware, we have a vacant trustee position. We have been informed by the mayor of the city of St. Louis, Nishad Carrington, will be our new trustee. What will take place at the next board meeting, prior to the board meeting, Trustee Carrington will be sworn in, and then the first order of business at the next board meeting will be the election of the chair position. And so the county trustees will elect one of the city trustees to fulfill the remaining year of the chairmanship. Any questions on that one? Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, the next item is a closed session. Do we have a quorum to enter closed session?
Yeah, we're okay.
Okay, so closed session discuss legal actions, causes of action, or litigation under section 610.021.1 of the revised statutes of Missouri.
Can I get a roll call vote? Trustee Wabi? Aye. Trustee Watson?
Yes.
Trustee Evans?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll get things set up here and we'll get ready to go.
Do we have a motion to exit closed session?
So move.
All right, there we go. Our closed session, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All right, thanks, everybody.